just you get to choose. Right? Like here's the scenario. The environment gives us something which can be perceived as negative, can be perceived as not working, can be perceived as problematic. The world's ending. But we get to choose to see it like that, or we get to choose to see it as an opportunity.
So clearly that it's my responsibility now to do that for other people. If I have information and, other people's success is my success and vice versa.
Because you know what? Like, the challenges or the roadblocks are the journey themselves.
There's no big things. It's all little things compounding on top of each other.
So actually today, I've been talking about this for a while. What is my most ideal day? What am I moving towards as what my week looks like and like Monday through Friday? What does it look like? What could be the most ideal version of it? And then, a lot of time I've been dealing with like, well, how do I fit things in? And what does it look like each day? And I think a good distinction for me is to think about it as a week, not as a day. The week as a collective, not as like, how do I fit, let's say as an example, client calls into each day, rather than how many client calls do I actually want to do in a week? And then what's the best version of what that could possibly look like? And it's been in my head for a while, the same answer, but I was thinking about it a lot last night as I was trying to get to sleep, and it was much even clearer, and so I had to get it out of my head and write it down this morning, and so I can send it to my director of operations. I wrote it down in a way that might be viewable ever so slightly.
Yeah.
And then also alongside that, that is the schedule that allows, when it's maximized, for $900,000 in revenue.
Mm.
So that was kind of cool to put that together and see what it would look like. I'm particularly pleased with my 7F Friday. So my whole program of focus is the 7-figure advisor, right? So I've now got 7F Friday. And I might need one more F, but maybe I can use Friday as the first F. Friday's flexibility, fitness, fun, family, friends, freedom.
Mm.
If I steal the F from Friday, I get 7. And then Monday and Tuesday are team strategy, creativity, thinking days. And then Wednesday, Thursday are client delivery days. 9 from 10 till 4:30.
Interesting.
Yeah,
we spoke a couple episodes back about dedicated days. So athletes don't practice on the same day and play, although some of them do. But yeah, so I love that. And so this came to you in a state where you're trying to fall asleep. Is that what you said?
I've had it basically worked out for a while, but I just, for some reason, it decided to be very vivid in my pre-dream or pre-deep sleep state last night. Yeah,
I think it's interesting to note that I know when we're in those relaxed states that we're not. Sometimes we try to think about something, we're stretching or reaching for it. I'm not saying that you're doing this, but you're trying to think through it and logic it, and then sometimes when you're in relax, it just comes to you. It's almost like it arrives. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's right. It's like the Muay Thai training I did to train for my level 1 years ago. I got better and better up until the date where I did the actual test. And then I had a week off. And then after I came back after a week off, I was better than I was for the actual test. And it felt like that for another week or so as well.
Mm.
So I think there's a lot of science around this as well, a very real way that you keep learning after you have a stimulus of something.
Mm.
If you're recovering in the right way, if you're sleeping, and if you learn a bunch of stuff and then go straight to sleep, I think your mind is going to do a much better job keeping hold of it.
There's like an integration period that's needed.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I understand, and then it feels that way as well.
Yeah,
So you
to let it seep in, and you almost feel different because you have that knowledge or information or ideas now, whatever that might be.
I think so. And I think it talks to the intent. It talks to the reason why I'm also doing sabbatical this year as well, and it's leaning into the perhaps which is not a typical approach. Like there's no more working hard available, right? It's the same theme for me. Working hard doesn't exist. Excuse me. Working hard is not the approach anymore. It's run out. So I'm excited, man. There's some great stuff out there. Like what this stuff resonates for you. I wonder where if you think about as I'm telling this story, as it were, which parts are landing for you in terms of what applies most or not, as the case may be.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I maybe have a little resistance to really defining it, what it looks like. So this is interesting. That we talked about feelings last episode.
Yeah.
Because you've identified, I think, don't let me put words in your mouth, but the end result that will deliver the feelings that you're seeking. Is that how you think of it?
Yep.
Okay. And I think,
Yep.
well, from experience, I've noticed that I'm not so good at figuring out what it actually looks like to get that feeling. So I have a hesitance or resistance even defining what I think it looks like.
Yeah.
So as part of your formula, like establishing it, but then also being open to a different way that it shows up, or how do you think about that?
Yeah. I believe that how you described it was most certainly a place that I was in for a long time. How do I know? I don't know everything. Someone else must have a better idea at this. I'll keep searching until I find something better. And what I found was that no one's got it all figured out. Yes, people do know more things. There's always going to be things I can learn. But if I keep looking for more, I'm never actually going to. When am I actually going to draw a line in the sand and say, this is the thing I'm going to go get?
So that was my part too. I don't want to interrupt. So I just want to put this bookmark and we can go back to what you're saying. My question was going to be, so what then? So when you get this, is there going to be a new ideal week that you get, or are you be in your sweet spot for perpetuity, or what do you think will happen?
Well, no. I mean, everything grows or it dies.
Yeah.
Right. So I want. This comes back to my visual about the rotations of life. Everyone goes on these rotations of experiment and journey and becoming more, and then coming back to relative home. And I believe it's our responsibility to make those cycles as tight as they can be, so you can experience more of them, more value, more experience, more impact. I don't doubt for a second that by the time I get this is not what I want anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not in some like, oh my goodness, this is totally the wrong thing, but like it's all part of the journey. All you can do is say, this is the thing that I think I want the most right now, and go all in on it, but also be completely aware that it may not be the thing that you actually want. But the quicker you go all in on it, the quicker you find out whether it is or not.
Yeah.
And then no, but then you also make much bigger leaps. It may not be the leap that you want overall, but it will be a leap nonetheless. Right? Let's say you can put to a specificity in a particular career that you've got. I mean, say you pick a career that you're in, right? If I think about my banking career, if I'm using the same approach there, what's the thing I want the most in here? So, well, I don't know. Let's define. Okay, what could it be? What might it be? Define it, and then make a leap into that. Then I've still leapt up a certain level, and then I might say at that certain level, okay, actually, no, this is not for me. I'm going to go somewhere else and start relatively again. But because I made a leap there, where I start relatively again is further along than it would have been if I just bounced along and found that that's not right for me. I'm still making upgrades to myself because every experience I have is investment in me, and I take myself wherever I go. So even if you say this is not the career for me, or think about it like relationships, this is not the person for me, I've still gone all in on that relationship, and I've still learned a lot about myself and about relationships that then I take to another relationship, or I take to change the way I think about it or do it. Go like either way, no lukewarm water, right? Like either the answer is never just slightly warm, please. Freezing cold, boiling hot. Like I got all the another way of saying that is like a violent yes or a definite no, right? Like it's trying to figure out one of those two so you can have a definitive next step to it. And there's nothing wrong with comfort, like necessarily, but you don't want to stay into it too long,
Right.
And yeah, like if everything is just the way you want it right now, then you got to think about, okay, what leaps do I need to make sure I keep it just the way I want it? Because by itself, it's going to get worse.
Yeah, comfort zone, pain versus pleasure. Not acting brings on the pain, then we act. You're proactively moving towards the pleasure with this strategy here.
Right. Even if the right now is fine in a pleasure point of view,
Yeah.
because we know that by itself it's not going to stay like that.
Have you attached a timeline to this, or do you have a target of when you'd like to accomplish this?
I said this time next year, but when I was writing out this morning, I was thinking about by the end of the year.
Okay.
Seems like that needs to be the big piece or the big leap to making the schedule the case, and perhaps this is where the real growth comes from, because it's not about the schedule at all. It's about having better access to my time so that I can have more impact in terms of the money I can create, the relationships I can have, and the purpose I can impact on. That schedule only allows for 10 one-on-one clients. So it still allows for a good amount of one-on-one clients. And then it allows for a mastermind, 2 masterminds, and 1 group program. And I counted my one-on-one calls this week, and I think 18 was the number was right. So that's going to vary a little bit from week to week. But essentially, that my makeup of my clients has got to change in order for me to realize the schedule. So what does that actually mean? It means there's going to be a point where I have to talk to my clients and say something. Like it has to be either this is how our relationship needs to be, or this is how my business is going to. This is what I would like my relationship to be. I'd love you to be a part of it. But if you're not, that's okay as well. Here's my other recommendation. And that's a scary prospect as well.
Gotcha. So how much of this is being okay with that fear and even embracing it and like getting excited about it?
Yeah, all of it, I think.
Yeah.
I had a client tell me this morning, said, I haven't spoken to him for a couple of weeks. He's been on vacation and I was out, and he went to a client, a prospect, he had an internal advocate there, and he shifted around a little bit, and that internal advocate ended up having an opportunity to work for my client, and my client's like, yes, let's do it. Although he's scared about it because it's a commitment in terms of like having another person on his staff. Intellectually, he knows this person's a great fit and does a lot of things that he can't do. He's going to buy a lot of his own time back, and therefore is going to able to buy his business. But he can't have all those things before he makes the commitment up front. So inherently, it's like, I know what's going to happen intellectually, but my emotion says, hang on, this is scary. What if it doesn't work out? And so you can hold those two things in your mind together at the same time. And then you just choose which one you want to lean into, or the person you want to be. The quality of our life is directly proportionate to the amount of uncertainty that we can comfortably live with. And so anytime if you can take that as a baseline belief, and then you can overlay the particular situation and then you can remind, if this feels uncomfortable, I'm scared of this. Then you can remind yourself, reward yourself that you're actually living in a higher quality of life because you're dealing with more uncertainty. And that in turn gives you more certainty. Becomes the thing, the very thing itself becomes the thing that allows you to do it. So that's cool.
So you're certain that you're embracing the uncertainty?
Exactly. You bring certainty to uncertainty. Like, oh, now I feel uncomfortable. I'm uncertain with this, even though logically it makes sense. Oh, good. I'm doing it. Or I'm doing the thing that I'm uncomfortable with. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And it's like, oh, good. I'm so comfortable that I feel uncomfortable. That's awesome.
Mm.
Or I'm certain that this is uncertain, so this feels like the right thing.
Yeah. So another way to say that maybe is the quality of your life is the quality of, or is the quantity of, not even the quantity, is the exploration of the uncertain situations. Almost like if you bring it on, then your life, the universe doesn't have to bring it on for you.
Yeah. Well, because that's true as well, right? It's going to happen anyway.
Well, that's literally the pain versus the pleasure, right? So you might as well bring on the
You're right.
challenge so that you can move towards the pleasure versus waiting for the challenge to move away from pain.
I know which one feels better.
Yeah.
My goodness. Just you saying that, like I could feel that viscerally. Ugh. Yeah. Challenge any day.
Yeah.
Rather than having something forced onto you that you have to back away from. That's
Yeah. Almost like, is it going to be okay versus like, how good can it get?
right.
That's the difference between those two things.
And even if you worst case scenario it, which is helpful, right? I think Tim Ferriss calls that fear setting. What's the worst case? What's the worst case here? And then if you can live with that downside, which 9 times out of 10 you can, it's a good bet to make.
And 9.5 out of 10 times it does not happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like that's an easy bet to make.
Mm.
And it feels good while you're doing it. Like every time you do something towards it, like, oh yeah, like see.
Yeah.
So
what might you say to somebody who is so used to, maybe they're in such a pattern of, all I want to do is get to the comfort level, and I'm so sick of when I get there, I take the foot off the gas, and then I revert back. I just wait for the pain to show up. Like, it's such a different mindset, approach, consciousness. How could somebody work on that? How did you overcome that, or how did you come to that conclusion that that's the way that you want to live?
my bet is if anyone was here talking about that right now, we could find examples in their life of when that's shown up for them, right? Like, you know, I'd offer someone to think about times in their life they've been really pleased of outcomes and or their biggest accomplishments, and what direction did they take, approach did they take at the beginning when they start to move into that particular accomplishment. And my bet is it's going to be that approach. Everyone's got examples of this. That's what's so cool about it, right? And or you could also think about, you know, perhaps people that you respect and trust personally or in the public eye, that like, and then think about how they do things. Right? Well, these are good examples of just confirming that either you've got it inside you, or people that you trust and respect are doing it in that way. So you just build more evidence that, you know, you look at the right evidence that you want to get to. And it's going to be scary, but that's okay, right? Like that, again, that's the scary part, is the reminder it's on the right track. And then it's just little practice. You know, what would you tell someone who wants to play ball hockey that's like, I don't want to be in front of a team, in front of people, like I've never done it before, like I'm going to fall over, I'm definitely not going to add any value, like, I just don't want. I'm kind of interested, but it sounds like a good time, but yeah, it's not for me. Like it's too much. It's not worth it. Like it's coming to the end of the season anyway. I don't know. Like I'd have to invest a bunch of money into it. I got no equipment. I don't know if I'd always be able to come. Like I don't know. What would you say?
I'd say those are extrinsic reasons. What's the intrinsic reason that you're here? What's driving you to even have the thought? In the face of all those doubts and all that hesitancy, what intrinsic reason might actually win out and be stronger than all of those?
Right. Yeah. And to cultivate that light, that might be a tiny little candle, and the other stuff is like
right.
a fire. Well,
or darkness. You're bringing the candle into the darkness of thinking those other thoughts.
Oh, yeah. That's a better analogy. Yeah, right. And then expand that, right, by taking some small steps.
Mm. Yep.
And then you go on that experiment and journey, exploration. That's what I was looking for there. And then you can do it again. And if you're doing it intentionally, you can show the evidence of other things you've done before to get to that outcome. Then you get the outcome. And then next time you encounter a situation you're scared of, because there will be a next time, then you've just got now more evidence of what you could do to get the outcome again. And the fear will never go away, but you can push through it quicker with more and more evidence that builds up. And that's why people can appear to not have a problem with this, because they've done it enough times that it appears like it's quick. But they're still going through it. They're just going through it. Or it appears like it doesn't exist. They're just going through it quicker because they've got more evidence, and then they got more certainty with the uncertainty.
Sure.
And then they can play levels which are of magnitude different and taking on challenges which they wouldn't have thought of before, because they're now at a place where they can see these extra challenges where they just couldn't even see them before.
Right. Yeah, there might be some neuroplasticity in there too, with just like thoughts wired together and create belief systems. Then it feels real. Same thing with like facing the fear. If you do it enough time, you're firing those synapses, so where you almost systematize the way that you approach making more progress, embracing the fear, and then you get on the other side. And like you said, all the evidence, you're just accumulating the evidence that you can do it. Not only that you can do it, you can thrive. And oftentimes those fears are false. They're not actually. They're just these things that make it scary so that you don't do it. And the more that you practice doing it, you exercise that muscle of just doing it anyway and get handsomely rewarded.
So then all the way back to the front of why set up the weekly schedule if you don't know if it's not the thing that you really want. For that reason alone, is worth doing, because you're practicing the approach of life that is going to give you the most potential upside. So every time you go on this exploration, it has value for value's sake rather than even the thing that you want. Someone says to you, I'm going to go climb a very big mountain. You're like, I don't want to climb a mountain. Like, climbing mountains doesn't do anything for me. I've never thought about climbing mountains. But you still might say yes to it because it's a challenge itself. It doesn't matter. It's kind of like playing sport. I think most people would agree, not everyone, and that's fair enough, like that playing sport is a useful endeavor for kids to start to do, and even adults to start to do if they have done before and they're not doing right now, or even indeed if they never have done at all. Because it gives you a certain level of, it pushes yourself, whether it's for you or a team. It gives you a different skill level, which could be utilized elsewhere. It's going to take you on a mindset journey. It's going to give you different outlooks. And so with sport, for me, it's more like just pick the one that resonates. I'd prefer my daughters to be doing martial arts, but they dance, and that's okay, because they're going to get a lot of what you would get from martial arts from dance. Now, my preference is to be doing martial arts because I think there's ultimately it adds more value, but that's just the reason why I think that is because I think it's the thing I like. Right. So if you prefer dance, then that's probably the thing that you think that adds the most value. But either way, there's so much intrinsic value and extrinsic value from doing anything of these areas.
Awesome. Interesting discussion. Would love to track this, Coach, to the end of the year. Maybe we'll check in every once in a while to see how this is going. I'm wondering, is there a leg lead lift in the process here? Is this still something that's in development with how you're going to approach, how you're going to achieve this?
It's definitely just in development here. And it will be part of that. Overall, developing my sabbatical out is really important. It's part of that process. They're all tied together.
Yeah.
So it's exciting as it will continue to evolve here.
Yeah. A good reminder for me today: you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not growing, you're dying, and to embrace it's going to be there's going to be fear involved either way, or something's going to be scary about it. So you might as well have pleasure on the other side of that fear versus comfort zone.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly, you nailed it. I'd never actually quite thought of it like that. That's this big distinction for me. It's like, yeah, if the thing that is exactly what it is. If you're not going towards something that you want, you're having to defend against something you don't. And the best case scenario is you're just where you were when you started. That sucks. Why not a best case scenario be like a 10x version of where you are right now?
Yeah.
Oh, imagine like just fighting through life just to get back to where you were.
Yeah, amen to that. All right, see you next time.
Thank you for watching another episode of Truth Seekers. We appreciate your interaction, so please comment, like, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more, check out some of our links to our masterclass, The Achiever's Mindset, and come join our LinkedIn group. And what do you want to see more of? Remember, we're here to share the simple secrets of successful. So help us do that. What do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Thanks, and see you again next time.